Being a wildlife photographer isn't just about snapping pretty pictures. It's about patience, timing, and a little bit of luck. These folks spend days in the wild, quietly waiting for that perfect moment. But sometimes, nature doesn't wait. Sometimes the animals take charge and end up giving photographers way more than they bargained for. Welcome back to Your Top Tens. And today, we're counting down 17 unbelievable moments when wild animals got a little too friendly with the camera crew. From a lioness walking off with a camera like it was a chew toy, to a bear plopping down beside a filmmaker like they were camping buddies. And yes, you'll want to stick around to find out how one unlucky BBC cameraman ended up getting nailed in the groin by a seriously grumpy sheep. Oh, and we've even got a scene where a real-life Timon seemed to recruit a photographer to help track down his buddy Pumbaa. Let's not waste any more time. This is going to be wild. Let's get into it. Number 17. Lioness sniffs cameraman. Imagine this. One moment, you're quietly photographing a pride of lions from a respectful distance. And the next, a massive lioness is casually sniffing around your private parts. That's exactly what happened to wildlife photographer Graham Springer during one unforgettable morning on the job. It all started just before sunrise. Graham and his colleague had located a pride peacefully roaring their way into the day. Wanting that dramatic, ground-level perspective, Graham got out of the vehicle and carefully positioned himself under it, camera ready, finger on the shutter. As the lions moved off behind the vehicle, Graham stayed focused on his shot. But one lioness had other plans. Instead of following the pride, she veered off, right toward him. He had no time to react, no time to hop back into the car, so he did the only thing he could do, stood up slowly, and froze. The lioness strolled right past him, but then something caught her attention, a gearbox near his feet. Curious, she stopped, sniffed, and that's when she saw him. Graham describes the moment she brought her head up to investigate, placing it alarmingly close to his crotch, as one of the most nerve-wracking experiences of his life. There was no escape, no sudden movements, just stillness, and a whole lot of praying. Eventually, she lost interest and walked off. The relief? Massive. As Graham later said, wildlife photographers often take calculated risks. They read animal behavior, respect boundaries, and never aim to cause harm or put themselves in real danger. But sometimes, even the best-laid plans can get a little too wild. After all, nothing quite prepares you for a lioness giving your gear a good sniff. Number 16. Sheep goes nuts. After years of filming apex predators like lions, sharks, gorillas, and snow leopards, you'd think a BBC cameraman would recognize danger from a mile away. But the creature that took him down wasn't some fearsome beast from the wild. It was a rare sheep named Cecil, with a bad attitude and pinpoint precision. Cecil, a beautiful Cameroon sheep from Africa, one of the world's rarest breeds, was being featured at an animal park. While the caretaker gently brushed him and gushed over how gorgeous he was, Cecil stood there like royalty, enjoying every second of it. But as the caretaker turned to chat with the host, Cecil quietly made his move. He turned his attention to the cameraman, got a little too close, and just as the cameraman shifted for a better shot, bam! Right in the nuts. A perfectly timed, full-force headbutt to the crown jewels. Thankfully, the cameraman wasn't hurt. Except maybe his pride. And the internet absolutely ate it up. The BBC uploaded the clip with the bold title, "Cameraman Smacked in the Nuts by Angry Sheep." One viewer commented, "Rumor has it the sheep is no longer called Cecil, but Nutcracker." Another said, "Never thought I'd see the BBC use nuts in a video title." And of course someone joked, "Try explaining that to your insurance." Needless to say, viewers were thoroughly amused. Number 15. Bear Buddy. The brown bear, the second largest bear species on the planet, is no animal you want surprising you up close. But for wildlife photographer Drew Hamilton, that's exactly what happened. And it turned into a once-in-a-lifetime encounter he'll never forget. While stationed at the McNeil River in Alaska, a place famous for hosting the largest seasonal gathering of brown bears on Earth, Drew was quietly filming and photographing bears in their natural element. Then, out of nowhere, a massive brown bear casually wandered up and sat down right next to him, like an old friend pulling up a chair. For a few surreal moments, it was as if the bear forgot he was one of the most powerful predators on the planet. And Drew? He did the only thing he could do: stay calm, stay still, and try not to look like lunch. Thankfully, the bear eventually lost interest, glanced at the river, and walked away, leaving behind a stunned but unharmed photographer. At McNeil River, encounters like this are possible precisely because humans behave predictably and respectfully. For over 40 years, visitors have followed strict rules, allowing the bears to go about their wild lives without fear or interference. Access to this pristine sanctuary is permit only, and for good reason. This kind of harmony between humans and bears is rare and carefully protected. Number 14. Magic meerkats. Not every close encounter in the wild involves teeth and claws. Sometimes it's just a bunch of nosy little meerkats making themselves a bit too comfortable. These naturally curious animals have been studied and filmed for over 2 decades, which means they've grown completely used to human presence. So much so that some of them have started treating wildlife cameramen like walking furniture. In one hilarious moment, a group of meerkats wandered right up to 2 crew members and decided the best place to escape the midday sun was under their buttocks. Yes, you heard that right. Shade is shade, even if it comes from a human behind. Then there's the bold meerkat who climbed up onto a cameraman's head and turned him into a lookout post, scanning the horizon like a king surveying his kingdom. As the crew joked, "I've filmed elephants, gorillas, and bears, but none of them ever sat on my head, probably for the best." Number 13. Meerkats Takeover. Photographer Will Burrard Lucas had the moment of a lifetime in Botswana's Makgadikgadi region, capturing up-close shots of one of his favorite little animals, meerkats.
Makgadikgadi region of Botswana, and I've come here to photograph one of my favorite little creatures, meerkats.
These curious creatures are completely wild, but over time they've learned that humans aren't a threat. As a result, they allow people to get incredibly close, sometimes too close. While Will was lying low, patiently trying to photograph a group of meerkats, the animals suddenly decided to take over the shoot. A few climbed right onto his back, his head, and even perched themselves on his camera. Turns out, when you're only a few inches tall, a wildlife photographer makes the perfect lookout post. As Will explained, in the wild, meerkats are surrounded by danger, from birds of prey to jackals. So getting a better view over the tall grass is key to survival. And to them, Will was just a conveniently shaped rock with a lens. He spent hours photographing a group of 3-week-old babies, and as they grew used to his presence, they started getting bolder, climbing all over him like he was part of the landscape. Number 12. Wolves Whisper. When photographer and filmmaker Steve Backshall encountered a wild pack of wolves, he was stunned. Tails wagging, sniffing the air, the wolves slowly approached Steve and his crew with curiosity rather than aggression. Their behavior was so familiar, it almost felt like being surrounded by oversized huskies, but Steve knew better. In the wild, wolves rarely pose a threat to humans. They're naturally cautious, often keeping their distance, but that doesn't mean they're harmless. If provoked, wolves are unpredictable and capable of inflicting serious harm. Luckily, this pack was more interested in observing than attacking. The crew remained still as the wolves inspected them. They interacted with each other, nipping and playing to build confidence and maintain pack order. Their massive jaws and sharp teeth were on full display, a reminder of their strength. Tess, a team member familiar with the pack, was greeted with gentle licks to the face. Soon, the wolves were comfortable enough to check out the rest of the crew, including the cameraman and sound operator. At one point, a sudden move from Steve earned him a quick, harmless nip. A warning. To end the encounter, Steve howled. Moments later, the wolves joined in, their haunting chorus echoing across the wilderness. A truly unforgettable experience, but definitely not one to try at home. Number 11. Polar pressure. While packing up camp on Scoresbysund Fjord in Greenland, Steve Backshall and his crew spotted a polar bear approaching across the ice. At first, the bear seemed uninterested, just moving along the beach in search of food. But as it got closer, things changed. The bear began yawning, shaking its head and shoulders, all signs of hesitation that, in polar bear language, means serious business. With the bear now clearly focused on their camp, the team grabbed bear spray, flares, and prepared to make noise. Their hope was to deter it without resorting to firearms. Despite loud shouting and flare blasts, the bear kept returning, driven by one urgent need: food. Due to climate change, Arctic sea ice is disappearing fast, over 3 million square kilometers lost since 1918. With the ice melting earlier each year, seals are gone, and polar bears are forced to seek food on land, bringing them into more frequent contact with humans. Steve and the team managed to scare the bear off safely, but the message was clear: this is becoming the new normal. In the Arctic, no one doubts climate change. Its impact is visible, daily. As one crew member said, "Sometimes I just curse our species. We could be so clever, but so unbelievably selfish." Number 10. Rhinographs. Photographer Kim and filmmaker Jules were heading out one morning to check on a recovering cub when they spotted something even rarer: a black rhino just 40 yards away. Most cameramen would stay in the safety of the Jeep, but Kim had other ideas. While Jules stayed back filming wide shots, Kim stepped out, determined to get an intimate, sunset-lit portrait of this powerful creature. But there was a problem. Looking through a camera lens can be deceiving. What seemed distant was, in reality, dangerously close. Black rhinos are notoriously aggressive and fast, capable of charging at 50 kilometers per hour with nearly a ton of muscle behind them. And this one wasn't thrilled to be part of a photo shoot. As Kim focused on his shot, the rhino made a move. Jules, frozen behind the camera, debated rushing to help, but feared that any sudden movement could trigger the charge. Kim had no choice but to stand his ground. The tension peaked until a sharp sound startled the rhino, causing it to pull back at the last second. Kim dashed into the bushes, shaken but unharmed. The rhino eventually wandered off, and though the experience was terrifying, the photos were incredible. One thing's for sure, next time they'll bring longer lenses and maybe stay in the Jeep. Number 9. Pet hyena. Hyenas, known for their eerie laughs and brutal scavenging, are usually seen as dangerous, unpredictable, and downright scary. But wildlife conservationist Kevin Richardson, famously dubbed the Lion Whisperer, has spent over a decade proving there's much more to these misunderstood creatures. At his private reserve in South Africa, Kevin has built an extraordinary relationship with a clan of spotted hyenas. These aren't tame animals. They live in a large enclosure, maintain a strict dominance hierarchy, and don't hold back when asserting rank. Yet Kevin interacts with them like they're family, scratching chins, playing rough, and even resting his head on them like you would with a beloved dog. In one unforgettable moment, a full-grown male hyena melts into Kevin's lap, demanding affection like a giant, misunderstood puppy. It's surreal to watch, but behind the cuddles is a careful, psychological dance of respect and dominance. Kevin isn't just playing, he's reinforcing his position in their social structure without ever needing to raise a hand. This bond has been built over 14 years, and Kevin is quick to caution. This isn't something just anyone can do, but his goal is clear: to change how the world sees hyenas, not as monsters, but as deeply social, intelligent animals. Maybe even a little dog-like if given a chance. Number 8. Cheetah cubs. You probably already know that cheetahs are the fastest land animals on Earth, capable of going from 0 to 60 in just 3 seconds. But what you might not know is that they can also be incredibly tender and curious, especially when you're lucky enough to be in their world. That's exactly what happened to wildlife photographer Kim Walhuta, who had an extraordinary encounter with a litter of wild cheetah cubs. While he was out filming, the cubs approached him, climbing on him, sniffing him, and even playing as if he were just another part of the landscape. Their mother, meanwhile, lounged in the grass nearby, completely unbothered. "It's like I'm just a log," Kim said, amazed at how relaxed the mother was and how fearless the cubs were. One of them even let Kim gently stroke its back. And let's be honest, who wouldn't want to pet a cheetah cub? They're adorable beyond belief, but let's not get carried away. This is not something you should ever try in the wild. Mother cheetahs are fiercely protective of their young. If she senses the slightest threat, she'll lose all trust and defend her cubs with everything she's got. Kim's bond with this cheetah family is the result of months of patience, trust building, and respect for their space. As Kim puts it, "I don't know why those little guys just climbed all over me. It's completely against nature, but it's brilliant." Kim was lucky. You? Probably not. So best to admire these beautiful animals from a safe distance. Number 7. Cute seal pup. Professional photographer Alexei Trofimov experienced a rare and heartwarming moment on Lake Peipus in Russia. For 3 years, Alexei braved the harsh winter, hoping to photograph the elusive Baikal seals. But each time he got close, the shy creatures would vanish beneath the ice before he could even raise his camera. That changed one magical day when a baby seal did something extraordinary. It stayed. The tiny pup let Alexei approach, lying still on the frozen surface as he quietly took photos. Then, in a moment that felt almost scripted, the seal slowly lifted one flipper, perhaps waving hello or goodbye, before disappearing into the icy waters. Given how easily startled baby seals usually are, this calm encounter was something truly special. What do you think? Was it a greeting or a farewell? Number 6. Gorillas grooming. Gorillas, the largest living primates, are native to the forests of Central Africa, and Uganda is one of the best places in the world to see them in the wild. While filming for a documentary, wildlife photographer and presenter John King experienced an extraordinary moment at a gorilla base camp when a habituated family of wild mountain gorillas approached him unexpectedly. Without warning, several gorillas moved in close: a dominant silverback, adult females, and playful youngsters. To John's amazement, one of the gorillas even began grooming his hair, treating him as part of the group. At one point, babies climbed over him while the silverback calmly watched nearby. John sat completely still, his heart racing. "I just feel like one of the gang," he said.
My heart is racing.
The peaceful encounter lasted several minutes before the gorillas moved on. This rare moment was possible due to decades of careful habituation, allowing humans to observe without disturbing their natural behavior. Number 5. Photographer lioness. While photographing a pride of lions in Botswana's Mashatu Game Reserve, professional wildlife photographer Barbara Jensen-Vorster had an encounter that turned a simple mistake into an unforgettable story. As she leaned out of her Jeep to capture the perfect shot, her 2,000-pound camera and telephoto lens slipped from her grip and landed with a loud thud on the dry earth. That sound was all it took. A nearby lioness, ever alert and protective, immediately rose and made a beeline toward the vehicle. With no time to retrieve the gear, Barbara and her team had no choice but to back off and watch from a safe distance. To their amazement, the lioness gently picked up the camera in her mouth and carried it back to her cubs, who wasted no time pouncing on their new toy. They chewed on the lens hood, dragged it through the dirt, and pawed at it with wild curiosity. Like kids with any new toy, they eventually lost interest and wandered off. Barbara cautiously recovered the camera, expecting the worst, but miraculously, it still worked. The only damage? A few impressive lion bite marks. She never got it repaired, because let's face it, how many photographers can say their camera survived a playdate with a lion pride? Number 4. Bear Boss. Gordon Buchanan and his crew were filming in the Arctic when they suddenly found themselves surrounded by 13 polar bears, a mix of mothers, cubs, and lone adults. What started as a peaceful moment quickly turned intense as more bears appeared from every direction. Though the cubs looked adorable, the situation was extremely dangerous. Mother polar bears are highly protective, and one wrong move could have ended badly. Gordon and his team stayed calm, kept their distance, and didn't panic. The crew described the area as Polar Bear Central, an incredible yet risky sight. As sea ice continues to shrink, more polar bears are being forced into tighter spaces, making close encounters like this more common than ever. Thankfully, Gordon and his team kept calm and alert, keeping a safe distance and respecting the bear's space. Still, it's not every day you can say, just another day at the office with 13 polar bears. Number 3. Elk headbutt. At sunrise in Great Smoky Mountains National Park, photographer James York found himself in a bizarre and tense situation when a young bull elk began harassing him during a photo shoot. What started as a curious animal sniffing York's camera gear quickly escalated. The elk began nudging and headbutting York, who was seated on the ground and stayed still, hoping not to provoke the animal further. York later explained that his instincts told him to keep his vitals protected and his head down, but doing so may have unintentionally signaled rutting behavior to the elk. The young bull continued to test him, even lunging at times until a park ranger arrived. York retreated to safety, leaving his gear behind. The elk then chewed on the equipment before being scared off by a double honk from the ranger's vehicle. York later joked, "At least he took me for a buck and not a cow." But he also expressed sadness when the elk was later euthanized for losing its natural fear of humans. Despite the risk, York admitted to feeling a strange bond with the animal, calling the experience unforgettable, and a sharp reminder that wildlife is never truly tame. Number 2. Bear encounter. A wildlife film crew had one of their most nerve-wracking encounters while filming bears in Alaska. Early one morning, they noticed a large grizzly bear named Van wandering along the shore, clearly looking for something. The tide had gone out overnight, and with it, the seal carcass Van had been feeding on had disappeared. Van started walking toward the crew, sniffing the air. It seemed he thought they might have taken his prize, and he wasn't happy about it. Grizzly bears are incredibly powerful, and if they feel challenged, things can turn dangerous fast. As Van got closer, the crew stayed low and calm. They didn't run or make sudden moves. One of them gently spoke to the bear, saying things like, "It's okay, Van. We don't want your seal. You're the boss."
Hey, buddy. Yeah, we don't want your seal. No.
Their tone was respectful, not fearful, just enough to show they weren't a threat. The bear kept coming, then finally slowed down. He seemed to understand they meant no harm. After a tense few moments, Van backed off and wandered away. The crew breathed a sigh of relief. They later said it was one of the riskiest situations they'd ever faced.
That was a serious situation.
But by staying calm and using the right body language, they avoided conflict. It was a powerful reminder, in the wild, even a small mistake can lead to real danger. Number 1. Arctic Fox Greenland. For over a decade, professional photographer and tour guide Stefan Forster had been traveling to Greenland, covering hundreds of kilometers by foot and kayak in search of the perfect shot. He had seen countless icebergs, whales, glaciers, musk ox, and many Arctic foxes, but never a white one. That changed in September 2018 near Disco Bay. After capturing a sunrise photo, Stefan spotted a pure white figure on a mountaintop. Moments later, it vanished. He climbed toward it, reaching the summit 20 minutes later, but the fox was gone. As he descended to the shoreline, he saw it again, just 2 meters above him. Over the next 20 minutes, the fox grew bolder and more curious. In a moment, Stefan never expected, the wild fox bit into his lens hood and stayed beside him, completely unafraid. And that's it for Time's Wild Animals Surprised Photographers. Which of these amazing encounters impressed you the most? And if you had the chance, which animal would you actually want to come face to face with, or even pet? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more jaw-dropping wildlife moments.